Welcome to Films and Stuff with your hosts, Pete Mitchell and Ethan Hunt.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Films and Stuff. I am Ethan, joined by the most valuable Pete. Hey, Pete, what's up today? How are you?
I am great. How are you?
We are back today for another episode of the Stream or Skip segment. Every week, I introduce a segment. I introduce you as MV Pete, and then you take a super deep breath, and in 15 seconds or less, you recount the rules for our new listeners who have not been privy to what Stream or Skip is all about. So, without further ado, I hereby turn it over to you to recount the rules.
All right. So, Ethan and I have prepared lists of TV shows for each other to watch. Every week, we randomly assign each other one of those series to watch. We watch at least 2 episodes or 30 minutes if it's a feature length program. And on that basis, we determine if that show is worthy of being streamed or skipped.
Hence the name Stream or Skip. So, without further ado, this week you had chosen for me a show called Lady in the Lake on Apple TV Plus, and I had chosen for you something called The Sympathizer on Max. I will kick it off with Lady in the Lake, a TV series which is based on a novel. It was released in middle of 2024 on Apple TV Plus, so it's about a couple months old. I think we could say it's kind of like a mystery or maybe a thriller. It stars Natalie Portman and Moses Ingram as the two main characters. And I have to say, it's a little bit confusing after watching only 2+ episodes. But essentially, there are two separate stories where the main characters, you can tell, are going to somehow be intertwined. So this is set in, let's say, the 1960s, or maybe like the very, very early 1970s. It's that kind of environment. So no mobile phones, people, sit down in front of the television and watch, the TV series of the day. Everything is a little more analog than what we're used to. And it's set in the DC area, Baltimore. Natalie Portman plays a character named Maddie. She is in what seems to be an unhappy marriage, and she leaves her husband. And she leaves her husband because there is a young girl from their neighborhood who is missing and is somehow obsessed with this little girl and wants to organize a search party. She wants to be involved in trying to find her. She's extraordinarily worried. And her husband is a little bit more chill about it, saying, wow, this is horrible. It's a tragedy, but it's not really our problem. You've got your own family here. You've got a son. You've got, me as your husband. You should kind of be worried more about your own home. And you don't need to be, the person spearheading this investigation. There is a police department involved. There's other, detectives or inspectors involved. Natalie Portman, for whatever reason, decides that this is absolutely her life's work. She leaves her husband and she actually finds the little girl who is dead in a lake. Simultaneously, and there's a lot of cutbacks back and forth, the character played by Moses Ingram, her name is Cleo. She is what you would call maybe like a black rights activist. Let's say a community leader. She supports, kind of like some council people getting elected. She's got some odd jobs all around town, but she's very politically outspoken. She's kind of an activist, and her activism gets her in some hot water. And while I've only watched 2+ episodes, Portman's character and the Ingram character have not yet really come like face to face, but you see that there are a lot of kind of threads that connect them. And you see in a lot of, let's say, scenes that kind of overlap or cross paths, can we say? So as an observer, you see how their lives are kind of like maybe not connected, but how they collide a little bit, but the characters yet haven't really come face to face and found, what is their connection. I have to say, after 2+ episodes, I'm the right word would say curious, but I'm not really compelled to find out what's going on in the series. It's been a little bit slow to develop. Definitely, there's some type of mystery going on here. Definitely, these two women are somehow connected. And obviously, this young girl who was found dead in the lake has to be some commonality between the two. But I have to say, and I think you've raised this phrase, some time back, there's no really compelling issue here that makes me want to continue to watch this, right? I mean, there was a murder. Each of these ladies has their own lives, filled with some drama, some happiness, some unhappiness. They've got their own stuff, but there's nothing really here that's making me like continue to watch to kind of see like what is the connection? What is the mystery? What is the boiling point? It's just a kind of a drama with two disparate characters right now. And my rating kind of reflects that. I've given it a skip. And not because it's not well done. I mean, the characters are great. I think the acting is great. Think the costumes and the scenery and the design and the dialogue are all great, right? I mean, it's a very, very well produced show. It's on Apple TV Plus, and it's worthy of being on Apple TV Plus. But from a pure entertainment standpoint, I don't have anything compelling me to watch the second half of the third episode. I don't have anything compelling me to kind of like stay up late and watch that one more episode because I got to see what's happening next. You've been involved in like shows like that, right? Like, for example, Three Body Problem on Netflix. Like that's a show that it's like 1:30 a.m. and I'm like, I've got to just watch one more. And then it's, 2:30 a.m. and I'm like, okay, just one more, right? This is not that show. This is that show where you're like, oh, it's 11:30, getting late. All right, I'm going to stop watching this midway through and I'm going to go to bed.
Right.
And my, I guess, unofficial value system is that if I can turn off a show mid-episode and go to bed at a reasonable hour, it's not really a compelling show. Does it become compelling in episode 3 or episode 4 or episode 5? Possibly. But to be honest, I don't think I'm going to be around to get there. And that's why I have rather easily given this a skip score.
Yeah, I understand. It's a bit of a shame. On paper, it sounds compelling, but I totally understand what you're saying. Sometimes it's just not there.
Look, and that's kind of the standard distribution of shows as well, right? I mean, Apple TV Plus cannot have a lineup of 10 must subscribes, right? I mean, even among those must subscribes, there are more and less compelling shows.
Yeah.
And again, I just don't see any way how I can give this anything other than skip, because that's how I've been reacting to this when I've watched, the first 2.5 episodes. So Lady in the Lake, Apple TV Plus, skip, though not for an absence of quality. Okay. That is my assignment. Maybe you've got better luck this week.
So I had pretty good luck. I had a show called The Sympathizer on Max.
Mm-hmm.
Now, The Sympathizer is a Vietnam War era series, highly stylized. It looks like colorful, it looks flashy, but it doesn't feel too gritty, although it does feel authentic somehow, which is a bit weird, I know.
Yep.
Okay. The basic premise of the show is that it's about a captain in the South Vietnamese secret police, right? And this is, of course, during the Civil War in Vietnam, the South versus the North. The North are the communists. The South are, I guess, supported by the Americans in a way, but not. Look, it was a very complicated time, is the best I can say.
Can I say something? Because I watched it as well.
Yeah.
Our generation, I think, is a little unfamiliar with Vietnam. Like, we know it as like a war concept.
Yeah.
But I think even you and I are pretty fuzzy in terms of the Viet Minh, the Viet Cong, the North, the South. To be honest, we're pretty confused in terms of what all the drama was about. And I think historically that was why there's so much opposition to the Vietnam War, at
Yeah.
least in America, which was what exactly is going on here? What's the purpose of this? And I think
What are
that's kind
we
of played
doing
out.
there?
And I think that's kind of played out historically from our generation, which is it really wasn't clear. And now it's kind of like a footnote. But at the time, it was a very, at least in America, a very significant footnote.
Significant and very controversial.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of that has to do because this was, I'm not saying the first, but I would say, and maybe I'm completely wrong about this, but as someone from who's not an American, maybe one of the first instances where you really get to see the CIA putting their fingers in their pie and really kind of meddling about.
Yeah, I think that's the right way to say
Yeah.
it. Yeah.
So, and we see that here because what we learn is this South Vietnamese captain in this secret police force is actually a North Vietnamese communist spy who's kind of infiltrated South Vietnam and worked his way up into the police ranks. And he's also a CIA agent.
There's a lot of double crossing in. So his name, we'll call him the captain, right?
Yeah.
I mean, and there's a lot of kind of double crossing in terms of he's a good guy who's really a bad guy pretending to be a good guy, right? Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
exactly. It's one of those things where you really have to watch it to really understand. But the idea
Yeah.
is that he's basically a mole for the North
Yeah.
Vietnamese
That's right.
in South Vietnam.
Right.
And he's a double mole because he's also working with the CIA. And the reason he
Yeah.
was selected to work with the CIA is because he was educated in California. He understands the American culture. He speaks the lingo. He understands the idiom. He knows all the pop culture references.
That's right. Yeah. He's a native English speaker. And I think they say a few times like he's not really considered Vietnamese because he's like they kind of call him like a half-bred like a few times as like
Exactly.
not as a
Right?
slang, but like as a derogatory term.
Exactly. So he's working with the CIA, but he's actually working against the CIA,
Right.
unbeknownst to them. It's
Right.
kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy. And the first episode ends with them escaping to America with the fall of Saigon, which is now Ho Chi Minh City.
Yep.
And his boss that he was working with is a general in South Vietnam who's still trying to keep the facade in order to, in order to kind of put that out there that he's still loyal to the South Vietnamese when he's really not.
Yeah.
So the show, it's a drama, it's a thriller, but there are certain elements of it that are also very comedic.
Yeah.
So Robert Downey Jr., I think was also a producer in the show, plays like 6 different roles.
Yeah.
Like he plays the CIA handler, he
Yeah.
plays a college professor,
Yeah.
he plays all these different people in America.
Movie producer.
The movie producer, exactly.
Movie
All
director.
these different guys who
Yeah.
are tangentially related to the captain in different aspects of his life.
It's in very over the top Robert Downey Jr. Like you've probably never seen
And
before.
it's absolutely hilarious because
Yeah.
each of the different iterations, like crazy makeup and crazy
Yeah.
affectations.
Hair. Yeah.
The set design is fantastic. It really does feel like 70s era Vietnam and America. It's got that vibe. It's got that. It's one of those shows where if you don't watch it all in a row, I think it's actually a very bingeable show because it's not that easy to keep a track of who's who and what everyone's goal is.
Mhm.
So I actually finished the series, and I started off by saying this is a mooch, then a must subscribe, then a mooch again, and I kept vacillating. And I think because I was vacillating so much, I would say that this is a very strong mooch, and that's where I'm going to stick it at. I would absolutely, to use one of your phrases, would not fight you if you told me that this is a must subscribe. But I, at the same time, would say, hey, I don't think this is a skip. I think it's a great show. I just don't know if you're going to love it or you're not going to love it as much, but you'll still enjoy it.
Yeah, I think that's probably a pretty good way to say it. So I watched this at your behest because I think that initially, probably episode one,
Yeah,
you were a little bit over enthusiastic about it,
yeah.
if I may say. And I agree with you. I mean, there's only 7 episodes in this series, and I didn't finish it. I think I probably got through like 5. And I agree, it's very entertaining. I think there's nothing off-putting about it. You know, it's got some elements of comedy to it. It's got some intrigue to it. It's a little bit complex, but not overly impossible to follow. I like it, but I mean, I agree with you. I give it the same score. I give it a mooch, is that I just don't see what single thing it has going for it that makes it a must subscribe. You know,
Yeah.
it's not a ha ha laugh out loud, oh my God, is that clever kind of comedy. It's not this really complex, mystery or thriller where you've got to stay until the last episode to kind of see what the big reveal is or what the twist is or what the ending is. It's not this, tear jerking, love story or, emotional quest, where you're really like rooting for the character. It doesn't have that one, I guess, emotional element to it that to me makes it a must subscribe. It's a very clever series with really interesting characters about a topic that I never would have thought would, lend itself to having like a series around it.
Mhm.
But at the end, it was just kind of a whole lot of, I'm not really sure what the point is. It's a story, but it was kind of like an irrelevant story. I mean, it just didn't seem to be, especially within a historical context. It's not like it was ramping up to like the second, revolution in Vietnam. It didn't really have, like this anything to it that I thought was, kind of worthy of sticking around. So I think I gave up after, 5 episodes. All enjoyable episodes, but again, in the great scheme of like the entertainment and all the other things competing against it, I didn't find that there was like one hook that, got me to say like I've just got to see how it ends,
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, like you said, that's kind of my definition of the distinction between a must subscribe and a mooch.
Yeah.
Lovely show. I mean, it's got a great premise. It's something different, and it's on Max. And I have to say, that's where Max's sweet spot somewhere should be, right? A very big name and Robert Downey Jr. doing something a little bit different and having, like a new premise or angle or something. I mean, that it seems like a good show that Max would take a flyer on.
Yeah. All right. So that is this week's episode of Streamer Skip. We had a skip with Lady in the Lake. We had a mooch with the Sympathizer on Max.
Yeah. Tell me about next week. Well, tell our audience, our listeners about next week, because I know what we've got. I'm pretty excited for it, actually.
Yeah, that's right. So next week, you're watching Paradise,
Yes.
and I am watching the new comedy slash satire, The Studio, on Apple TV Plus.
So Paradise, I didn't recognize that at all. And then I did a little bit of research and then it clicked. Have you heard of this before?
I have not heard of it.
So let's not give away spoilers before we've actually given away spoilers on our episode, but it's supposedly a little bit dystopian. And I read what is kind of like the thumbnail on it, and it seems like something that is right up our alley. I have to say, it makes sense that it's on Hulu. It would not make sense to me that it would be on Disney Plus.
Right.
I've got relatively high expectations for Paradise. This could be after a string of kind of skips. I had Territory, I had Before, I had The Silent Sea, I had Lady in the Lake. This could be a good diamond in the rough.
All right.
So ladies and gentlemen, that is this week's episode of Stream or Skip. Pete, what are our social media, YouTube, and other creds so people can comment, ring the bell, and so forth.
All right, tweet at us at F&S Podcast, DM us on Instagram at Films and Stuff Podcast, and as always, the best thing you can do, like this video, leave a comment below, and hit that notification bell.
Well said, my friend. Pete, thank you for joining. Listeners, thank you for listening in, and we shall see you next week, next episode of the Films and Stuff Podcast. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ethan. Thanks, everyone.
Bye now.
Thank you for listening to another episode of Films and Stuff. If you haven't already, please subscribe and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever podcasts are downloaded. Films and Stuff. There is no substitute.